Hey guys, Zinda here from the Golem, located at angelfire.com/game/lane40. I'm here to talk to you about today how much I cannot stand how people complain about the length of games in today's day and age of gaming. Something that really bothers me is that games, now of course, games value in price depending on where you are in the world and, how valuable games are to each individual person, depending on how much money people make with their jobs and stuff like that. So I'm not going to get into the whole conversion rate of currency from American money to, whatever Europe uses. I'm not really culturally, inclined here. But whatever, other countries use in comparison to the American dollar. So I'm just going to tell you that games usually range, games are priced to the point where Americans will spend some of their paycheck that they get to buy a game. You usually buy a game, depending, of course, on how much you make. Americans will usually buy a game maybe once or twice a paycheck or once or twice a month, depending on how often they get paid, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of different variables that involve. But my point here is that people are complaining about the length of games for the price that they're paying for it. And quite honestly, it really bothers me. Now, I'm guilty of it too. I have done it before. But then I really thought about it for a little bit. And I'm like, I really can't complain. If you're given the fact in Nintendo days, Super Nintendo days, Sega Genesis days, these older days where these games came out, and they were, they were cartridge-based, so, the cartridges are a little bit more expensive to make. Games back then were not that long. And they were about the same price as they are now to buy new games. So when it comes to actual length of games, why are people complaining about that a game is 20 hours long? Why are people complaining about that the game is 30 hours long? Well, it's because the fact that there are games that are like Elder Scrolls, where they are over 200 hours to get everything done. There are just very, very long games like Fallout, where it's an open sandbox type of game. And games themselves, there's so much effort, so much time that gets put into it. They charge what they charge for it because they have to be able to pay the people that they paid to make the game in the first place. But once again, I'm just angry at the fact that why are people complaining about the price of a game or the length of the game when back then games were significantly shorter. For example, I can go through Super Mario Bros. 2 in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Of course, there's warping involved, but that's 30 minutes flat from beginning to end of the game. Now, if Mario 2 were to come out right now, in today's day and age, on disc, for $60, or for how much it costs to buy a new game in your country, and it were to come out for that amount of money, would you be angry at the length of the game? Yes, you would, because you just paid that amount of money for a 30-minute game, and quite honestly, that is completely ridiculous. But if you've given the fact of the matter that you're paying the money that you're paying for a 60-hour game or for a 20-hour game, you're getting your value's worth a lot more. The reason why games back then seemed to be so much better, so to speak, or so much more worth the money is because of the replayability. There's a difference between replayability and there's a difference between just what you get when you get a game in the first place. Like replayability, like I can go through Mario 2 once a day if I wanted to. And you can play it over and over and over again because it is short and you can have a lot of fun doing it. So you get your money's worth by the fact that it is a very, very short game. Same thing too with like if you've ever played a game called Blaster Master, which is a fantastic platformer if you haven't played it. Metroid. All these games are shorter games. Mega Man, short games. You can get these done within a couple hours. But they were still the same price that they were back then that they are now for a new game. So the fact that people are complaining is ridiculous. I think it's people should not be complaining about the length of the game, more about the replayability of the game. Then I wouldn't care. It's just the fact that people are complaining about the length of the game. It's like when I buy a game and I get 30 or 20 hours out of it, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I just got 20 hours out of this game. I'm not going to sit there and complain because I play retro games that I spent the same amount of money on in the past and have beaten those in half an hour. A perfect prime example is one of my friends bought Yoshi's Story when it came out for Nintendo 64 when it first came out back at, 10 years ago now, I think? I don't know. Whenever it came out. And he was very, very mad that he had spent the money he had spent on it and had beaten the game in 2 hours. And I'm like, that I would legitimately be mad about because it is a newer type. At the time, it was, we were experiencing in the 3D type of gaming. The N64 was brand new, the PlayStation 1 was out, and that I understand, that I can get, and and I can understand that. But if you're gonna sit there and complain about, a 20-hour game for the amount of money you're spending for it, seriously, there are other things in life that you need to be complaining about a little bit more. If you're gonna be complaining about it, complain about the replayability because a lot of games these days don't have replayability. They really, really don't. Perfect prime example is New Super Mario Bros. For the Wii. I played through that. I loved it. It was a fun game, and it did a lot of nostalgic aspects from, Mario 2, Mario 3 for the regular Nintendo. But it's one of those games that you can't just sit down and beat and just play through just for fun. You have to dedicate time towards it. And there's really no games that do that anymore, that are just sit down and play. And just play it relentlessly until you beat it for within a couple hours. There's just nothing like that anymore. So I mean, like I said, my point is just the fact that I really just don't like the idea that people are complaining about length of games when length of games are significantly longer than what games are back then. I mean, like I said before, Mega Man, Metroid, Blaster Master. I mean, these are games that after mastered and after getting them down, you can beat them within, an hour or two. And honestly, it just bothers me that people complain about length of games, because games these days are just phenomenal looking. The storylines are great. There's voice acting. There's so much involved with a video game now that I can't just be mad about the fact that I just spent the money I spent for a 20-hour game. I mean, I have a lot of new games on my shelf right now that I spent the money I spent on that I've only gotten 10 hours out of or 8 hours out of, and I still own those. I'm like, man, these games are fantastic. Because I don't just look at the length of the game when I buy a game. I look at the whole package, the whole presentation of it. And that's just kind of the point I'm just trying to get across. I just really don't like that people complain about that. And, that's pretty much about it. Like I said, I was guilty of it too. I don't know if you are. I'm not trying to hound on anybody, but just really honestly think about it for a second of what really time and effort goes into games. And don't really complain about the length of the games, because you can pop in Mario 2 right now and go through that in half an hour. And if you still own that game, and if you bought it back in the day, you will know that that is about the same price that you paid for that game back then than you are paying for games now. So for a significant shorter amount of time. So there's really no reason to complain. That's about it. Sorry it's been a while. Once again, I know I say sorry a lot, but I don't want to get into what's going on in my life right now. It is just nuts. So I'm trying my absolute hardest to get my website up to where it needs to be. I have a very good helper that's been really helping me out through emails and stuff, and I can completely appreciate it. So I'm going to give a shout out to him. It's ZT Diffused. I sincerely appreciate the help you give me, man. It's unbelievably amazing. I just want to say, shout out. I'm okay. I know it's been like 3 months since a video, but once again, I have not forgotten, and I will get back to them full time again once I can get everything else in my life calming down. I had a new job change and everything like that, so it's been nuts. So, all right, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.